Hello, welcome to this podcast. This podcast is actually designed for people who've been approached to be a referee for somebody who is going to apply for the pre-application for submission of a portfolio to UKPHR Specialist Registration by Portfolio Assessment route. So we've designed this so that you get the basic information that you need in order to consider what you need to do. I'm Carol Wood and I'm one of the specialist moderators for the scheme.
And I'm Judith Hooper, the second specialist moderator.
Okay, now Judith and I, we've been in the world of public health for quite some years. I was a director of public health in Gateshead in the northeast, and have subsequently done locums in Durham and Middlesbrough, Redcar and Cleveland.
And I was a DPH in West Yorkshire for a number of years and retired in 2014 and then joined UKPHR.
So Judith and I have been around for quite a long time and have been involved in both the formal education system in public health, as well as designing the new route, what we call the new route, this new portfolio assessment route. Thank you very much for considering being a referee. It's really important, I suppose. The first thing we want to do is, why a reference and who can give one. It's really important that we uphold the standards equivalent to those of the Faculty of Public Health Specialist Training Programme. So the first thing we want to do is to make sure that somebody applying for this route is working at the right level and has the right range of competencies. And for that, we require your reference. A person who can give a reference can only be somebody who has specialist public health registration. So if you're not one of those people, then you're not the right person to give a reference. If you are, you should be from a senior public health background with someone with a clear strategic role or reporting to a senior decision-making body. And registered with the General Dental Council, the General Medical Council, or UKPHR as a public health specialist. It's really important that you know the person that you're writing the reference for. You have direct knowledge of their work, you should also be in a position to know and to state if the person has any governance or disciplinary issues in relation to their practice. We also would like you to state on the form the offer in terms of support for the applicant that they will receive in terms of preparing their portfolio submissions, such as study leave or mentoring support.
So what's the first thing you should consider in writing your reference? You must understand the pre-application process, the portfolio assessment process, and particularly the breadth and the level of competencies for this registration. All of those documents are available on the website, and the person who's asked you for a referee surely would be able to give you copies of those documents. It is really important that the people who are applying for this are working at the level of a newly qualified consultant or somebody that's just come off the faculty training scheme. It can be quite difficult for very senior colleagues to actually compile all the breadth and evidence across all the competencies, because people have become specialized in one particular field. So you as a referee need to have a open and frank discussion with your applicant as to whether or how the applicant is going to produce the evidence of working across all those competencies at the right level. The main reason for failing the pre-application process is because people are working in one particular field and they haven't got enough experience or knowledge to cover all of these competencies. And sadly, at present, about half the folk putting in pre-applications are failing, and it is mainly because of this reason. The purpose of, I'll just go through very quickly the purpose of the reference, and it's to provide us with assurance that the applicant can demonstrate practice in accordance with good public health practice, maintains and enhances professional knowledge and skills by participating in a relevant full PCPD scheme, but particularly from the referee point of view, is capable of using a range of advanced public health skills at working at senior organisational levels, and has levels of strategic leadership and autonomy in terms of their work. And they constantly demonstrate sound judgment in using such expertise and skills. And clearly, it's important for them to have the support of their senior colleagues to proceed with compiling a portfolio, because it will take them a considerable amount of time in the detail that's required. Carol?
So where are the competencies from, and what do you need to know about them? So the competencies for UKPHR specialist registration are derived from the Faculty of Public Health Specialty Training Curriculum. So if you're an education supervisor or placement supervisor, you'll be familiar with the system. UKPHR competencies are very similar. It's just that they've had to be amended to make sure that they're suitable for retrospective portfolio assessment. Clearly, the assessors who are going to be assessing the portfolios do not know the applicants, and they are relying on a portfolio of evidence and written evidence and documentation in order to come to a decision about whether or not a particular competency has been met. So they are written in a slightly different form. It is worth you having a look at those. There's a separate document for the know-hows and a separate one for show-hows. And hopefully you'll see there's some very sort of familiar competencies in there. And just bear in mind that if an applicant has done the Faculty of Public Health diploma exam, they automatically would pass the knowledge competency evidence. So all the elements that Judith mentioned before about being required, you're going to be looking for to be able to sort of sign those off in terms of the level of working autonomy, the breadth of competencies, the standards of professional practice. And your reference is really claiming that this is on direct observation. You've seen this person operate and you're confident that they are working in line with good public health practice. So it's important you know their work, and it's important that you have known them and observed them within at least 1 year of the last 3 years. So even if you haven't line managed a person directly, you would need to have directly observed their work and know them quite well.
So have you actually read the pre-application form that the applicant has completed? I think it's crucial that you do, because you need to be confident about the gaps that the applicant has identified, and that they're going to be able to fulfill those gaps in the 18 months they've got between the pre-application being accepted and the portfolio having to be submitted back to UKPHR. You also need to be able to clearly support them in whatever the gaps are, because that may mean them working in a different organisation for a period of time on a piece of work, or there's certainly a different part of the organisation they're in at the minute. So it's really, really important that you confirm the support that's available to the applicant to fill those gaps. The other part that we absolutely highly recommend, if not insist upon, is that applicants have access to somebody who has successfully got onto the UKPHR specialist registration portfolio route by a previous route, because this route is exactly the same for writing the portfolio as those previous routes. The thing that's different here is the pre-application and the limit in the number of times you can put a portfolio in, as well as the competencies. But writing the portfolio is identical to the previous routes. And a lot of applicants for this new route seem to be having problems in writing those portfolios and don't seem to be able to access that kind of support from somebody with that experience. Carol?
So on to the final declaration. At the end of the reference that you be required, it's a structured reference form. It's worth having a really good look at that before you fill it in, and also make sure you've actually seen all the material that the applicant is planning to submit. The final stage of your form is really, really important, because this is a declaration where you're signing to say that you're confident the applicant meets the competency requirements appropriate for an appointment to a public health consultant role. And they have a realistic plan for being able to prepare their portfolio, and that might include doing a few extra bits of work or some extra study that's identified on their personal development plan. But that, if they do have additional things that they need to do before they can submit the portfolio evidence against all the competencies, those gaps need to have been identified, and they need to be realistic. Really, it's no good coming along and saying you've got to do a whole, three new placements and lots and lots of study. It has to be realistic and able to be achieved. And if it's not clear and you're not confident about this person, do not sign the form. It's as simple as that. By signing the form, you're really saying that you're confident, that you're familiar with the applicant's work, and that you think they're a suitable candidate to put a portfolio in for this specialist registration process. So bear in mind, it's the equivalent of a newly trained consultant in public health, fresh from the faculty training programme. That's the minimum standard, and that you're saying they're ready to put their portfolio in to be assessed. So this is very much about the gateway into writing the portfolio. This is the pre-application stage, and you'll be signing them off to say you support them in going forward. So that's really the key to that final declaration. So make sure that's really carefully considered before you put pen to paper on that.
And thank you for your support with your applicants. It's really invaluable to both them and to us.
Yes, thank you.